Marcus Satterfield was at the podium earlier today, as Coach McGuire, I believe, is wrapping it up now. But we do have some of the Satterfield audio, and obviously a big news week kind of all together from Saturday with Xavier Betts, of course, leaving the team. So I'm sure that was addressed. So let's look into some of these quotes here from Coach Satterfield. This is not necessarily in the order in which he answered them. This is just kind of what jumps off the page to me as I am hearing them for the first time, by the way. And so we'll just kind of react. And we talked about Eric Gilbert earlier, if he's available and how much could he change things. So this is the kind of the questions for Satterfield about Eric Gilbert.
For the positive, I mean, he's a special talent, and but all we can do is just get the guys ready that we know are going to be there. And he's unbelievable. Comes in every day, tries to learn, practices hard, and he brings his positive to the offense as well.
So there you go. You hear what their kind of view on him. He said, get the guys ready that they know are going to be there, but very, very complimentary of Eric Gilbert if they could get him in the room. All right, this is again Coach Satterfield at the podium for today. What were the main concerns coming out of Saturday's scrimmage? If you didn't know, Nebraska did have a scrimmage on Saturday. I think they're allowed 2 by the NCAA, so they'll do another one, I believe, either this Thursday. I think it's this Thursday, or Saturday, and then they will do another one. Not another one. They'll do like a pre-game kind of run.
I got to see if I got an invite for one of those.
Yeah, maybe practices. You should get one of those. But here was the main concern coming out of Saturday's scrimmage from Coach Satterfield.
The operation. We got in the stadium. Those young kids got in the stadium for the first time. Just get in the stadium, a play clock, real officials, getting plays on and off the field, get personnel groupings on and off the field. At times early on, we struggled with that in the scrimmage, but they calmed down and they kept chopping away. I told them, it's easy just to kind of lock up right there and not be able to perform, but they got better as the scrimmage went on and made some plays later.
So there you have it. Similar kind of thoughts from what we heard from Coach Rule about kind of adjusting to having it all there. And so you hope to not see that. I mean, the penalties like that can absolutely hurt a team, especially getting behind the sticks. I mean, you think about it, a couple of years ago, I remember Nebraska's offense, I think it was 2020. Really, I mean, if they got a penalty or something that kind of put them behind the sticks, they were basically doomed. Hopefully, Nebraska has a chance to overcome that. But again, with what we're seeing evolve in this offseason going into this year, the type of offense they have is going to be better suited to get some manageable yards on first down and have a manageable third down because they hope to be, running behind that line. And so, we know from the years of even Nebraska's option offense, if you remember back in those days, it's important to stay on that schedule because 3rd and longs could doom you. Hopefully that doesn't happen for Nebraska this year. And if that's the offense they have, hopefully they have some answers for it. All right, Coach Satterfield here. Thoughts on the depth of the wide receiver room? Of course, this is interesting after Xavier Betts' departure.
We definitely need to build some depth in that room. We got guys coming back off some injuries that'll help us. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for us to see what these young kids can do. We got some young wideouts that are very talented and explosive, and they're going to get a chance. If they prove it in practice, they can do it in games. So they're going to get a chance early to show what they can do.
So there you have it. Coach Satterfield pointing to the young guys, and it is good. Sometimes you can look at it as, you need depth and all this, but as far as the opportunity for those young guys, a lot of guys want to commit to a place where they can play right away. And it can kind of be a wake-up call once you get to camp and see you're not all of a sudden better than everybody else like you were in high school. But for a lot of those guys, it'll be time to see if they can step up. He spoke specifically quickly about Jaden Doss.
Yeah, I mean, just his physical traits, athletic traits, speed and everything, his power, gives him a chance to do some things early on.
So he'll be one of the wide receivers that people are looking for. Also in that wide receiver room, just thoughts on Garrett McGuire, of course, the new young wide receiver coach and how he's handled the room so far.
I mean, he doesn't flinch. He's like, everybody that Coach Rule puts in the staff, like, we're not going to flinch. We're just going to say what's next and move on. All we can control is what we can control. So, we just woke up the next morning, went to work, found our guys, started, coach them and develop them. And I think Garrett's done a really nice job of doing that. It hasn't changed anything that we do day to day and how we coach these guys.
Of course, there will be a magnifying glass on Coach McGuire now after, already was because of his age and all that. But, after Betts' departure, we'll see how that wide receiver room can continue to get better. As Coach Matt Rule said, it was one of the rooms with the biggest questions already. So that's kind of interesting. Of course, a lot of people want to know about the quarterback. So let's hear it from the offensive coordinator. How would he evaluate Sims' performance?
Steady. I mean, was it his best day? It wasn't his best day, but it was far from his worst day. And, the way Jeff does it, just goes about each day and just wakes up, has a strategy, attacks it, and gets better, tries to get better every single day. So he came back, yesterday, he got in the film room, had good meetings. He's becoming such a leader on our offense, just from not just, do what he does, but just a vocal leader as well. So come out today, had a, attack today. So he's in a good spot.
That's the starting quarterback there. How about the backup quarterback competition?
It's cool with them. I mean, our quarterback room's really, the meetings and stuff have been great. They compete every single day. Each one of them have different skill sets and different traits that they bring to the table. So, you can game plan things and you can have plays ready for them to be able to attack a defense, maximizing what they do and what they do best. So we're not ready to really name a number 2 guy right now, but, we feel that both of them could go into a game and help us win.
That's interesting because I think that is a question that a lot of people have kind of had. And he said, both of them can go in there and help them win. Of course, Nebraska had struggled with the backup quarterbacks getting into the game last year and finding a way to carve out a win. At this point, you have any way that you would lean between Harburg and Purdy? Obviously, it's still battling it out on the field for the coaching staff.
With who now?
Harburg and Purdy, the backup quarterbacks.
Harburg. I seen Purdy play last year. He has to do a dramatic turnaround for me to get him. I know they both have different styles. I know Harburg is more of a rushing quarterback, but you don't want to go in there and flip-flopping quarterbacks and don't let one of them get a groove. So we kind of figured that last year, what happened when what was his name?
Casey Thompson.
Yeah, I forgot Casey Thompson's name already, man.
That's all right. He's gone.
Jeff Sims. Yeah. Jeff. But we seen what the deal when Casey went down last year that really hurt us down the stretch from winning games. And we just need to figure out who's going to be number 2 and get that guy as many reps as he needs and just keep him ready in case Jeff Sims had something happen to him. Not saying it will, but, we just need to keep, you always want to get that backup just as many snaps as that starter does in practice.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, again, I think that will be one of the concerns is in Sammy Kuhn wrote a pretty good article about like how much do you run Jeff Sims? How much can he be part of the attack if you don't believe in much as your backup quarterback? Well, he didn't add that as much, but just kind of the hits and the injuries that it takes. But to me, that is adding to the factor. If you have a significant drop off to your number 2 quarterback, to the point like it was last year, you're probably going to run Jeff Sims, even though you can run Jeff Sims even more limited. And Matt Rule's already said they're going to limit that to kind of third downs when you need the pickup, red zone. So I'm kind of interested to see how many like play calls they go that kind of go against that, because at certain times you will, and maybe catch the other offense off, the defense, opposing defense off guard. But it sounds like Jeff Sims' designed running plays are going to be few and far between. So we'll kind of see kind of how that looks. Satterfield also asks, are there still a lot of playing time decisions that need to be made on the offensive side here about 2.5 weeks before game day?
I think, the running backs are competing every day. The wideouts are competing every day. The tight ends are competing every day. I think there's a healthy competition amongst our offense that's going to allow us to, iron sharpen iron, get better every single day. So we're not ready to sit here and give you a final depth chart, but, there's still a lot of competition out there for some spots.
That's interesting, too, because on the defensive side, they've talked about waves that they're going to be throwing in there and, wanting to get 17 to 20 guys ready or whatever for the defensive side of the ball. On the offense, there's a little bit less of that. There's usually not a whole lot of rotating offensive linemen because you want to kind of get them on a groove. Now, Nebraska would do that at times if you don't have, if you still have a battle, maybe you have a guard battle kind of going on and switching here and there with possession to possession. But on the offensive side of the ball, it's really the skill positions that are switching here and there, and then personnel, depending on if you want a fullback or a tight end or another wide receiver out on the field. A lot of rotation at wide receiver, but I wonder, just kind of how many guys that they feel really comfortable with throwing out there on offense. So we'll kind of see. It says the battle for playing time is still kind of trending from day to day. Let's look at how pleased he is with the running back room. He did mention that a little bit.
Pleased with it. I mean, we're hard runners, again, just kind of like the backup quarterbacks. I mean, those guys can do a little bit of everything. You got a guy that can run option routes, get the ball on the perimeter, breakaway speeds. You got guys that will run through your face. You got some guys that shifty within the line of scrimmage, can run through arm tackles. So we have 3 or 4 guys that are playing really well right now. and very pleased with the room.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because Emmett Johnson was brought up. Just now thinking of this, Matt Rule brought up Emmett Johnson, the freshman running back, while he was talking about wide receivers. And again, I don't know if that's because they just really like the athleticism they see and maybe find out some way to get him on the field. But that is a name, and he mentioned 3 to 4 guys. I think Emmett has to be your 4th guy there that could play a role this year. And I don't think that, because of the other names in the running back room, and we've already seen all them play, and you're impressed with Ramir and Gabe and Anthony Grant, and so they all factor in for certain. But I think Emmett Johnson could be another guy in that room that's going to get more of a role than you would think.
Well, if he can make up for the loss to A.J. Allen, that'll be great, because A.J., I figured him to be in that rotation, but, sadly, he transferred to University of Miami. But if the coach is giving that guy praise, he can't get in. Like I said, there's more room for players like, but players like him to get on special teams. You don't have to really be in there carrying the ball all the time. Sometimes you help out on punt team, punt return, field goal block, kickoff team, kickoff return. It's things like that he can help in and contribute in right away. So it don't have to be necessary in the running back room.
Let's go to this. Satterfield says, was asked who among the freshman receivers is tackling the learning curve the best. There's a few questions. The reporters are trying to pry and figure out which freshman wide receivers are rising up the depth chart. I'll see if he gives us anything.
We're pleased with all of them because, they're freshmen. First of all, this is a whole new ball game. They think that they've been playing football for the last couple of years, and then they get here and like it's a total different animal. So they're all, we're very pleased with all of them. But, you look at like Jalen Lloyd and Doss. Those guys have made some plays and been able to go out there and function and, from a physical standpoint and an athletic standpoint, make some plays and on their own.
So Jalen Lloyd and Jaden Doss there singled out. Interesting that Malachi Coleman wasn't brought up. Again, maybe reading too much into it because he was brought up by Matt Rule on Saturday. And maybe Doss, I believe so. Lloyd, was not mentioned, but but Rule mentioned again a senior wide receiver instead. So maybe that was kind of the name he was thinking. So maybe Jalen Lloyd also among the freshmen, fast. He brings speed, and he's the one that does come up from Texas that could factor in. And I think that speed again. There's a lot that goes into playing at the next level and getting out there right away. But you can't teach speed in Nebraska. A lot of these freshman receivers at least have that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these 3 freshmen, they might be the 3 that play. They all come with different traits. They all are different players. One has speed. One has good route running, and Dawson, and Malachi is a big, tall guy. So we know if we can get him physical and get him ready for the season, these might be 3 freshmen that we can count on, that we can count on for the next 3 years.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if even in the modern era of college football, I believe in anybody for 3 years. You hope so, but there's so many changes and so much left and right.
It's great that these guys are freshmen, though.
Yeah.
So and then you got another group of freshmen coming in next year from wide receivers. So if you can get these 2 groups, and then not necessarily next year, but a year or 2 later, that you could have 5, 6 rotation. I mean, good receivers here at the University of Nebraska.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think down the line, especially with this freshman class, you can envision it to be rather dynamic with that speed that they already have. If they can, kind of adjust to the college speed and everything that goes into playing at that level, it is a future that I think is bright. I just think this year might be, it's kind of that transition year, and that's where you have to rely on a lot of these, the Billy Kemps of the world to just come in and kind of give you that boost. But, if you think about it, Nebraska's kind of been renting their wide receivers anyway. Marcus Washington's somewhat of a rental. Trey Palmer was for a year. Samori Toure, some of their best wide receivers have just kind of popped up. It would be nice to see one or a group like this one kind of organically grown, and then, have that experience of playing for Nebraska and for several years. I mean, Nebraska would like to have some stability there themselves from year to year. All right, a few more quotes that I wanted to get to before we wrap it up with Coach Satterfield. Where has this team come the furthest from spring until now?
I think just the brotherhood and the camaraderie on offense. I think there's a lot of trust with our offensive line. I think there's a lot of trust that's developing with Jeff. I think Jeff's developing a lot of trust with, certain players on the team that he can trust to get open at certain times of the game. So I think just the brotherhood and the camaraderie is just, you see it growing every day, and the guys are making an attempt to make it grow. It's not, they're not fighting it. They're out there trying to, learn other people's names, learn things about families. Like, Coach Rule in team meeting stuff at night challenges them, learn to, talk to other people. Don't just sit with the same people all the time. So just the brotherhood, I think, is improving daily.
So there you have it. Nebraska getting closer together as a team. The offseason, they've done a lot this offseason to try to make that the case. So that is good to hear. Also, there are a few more things I wanted to get to. The offensive line. A lot of people wondering about that offensive line. He was asked, what are you seeing in terms of defensive recognition and growth from the offensive line?
I mean, it's like trying to solve a puzzle every snap. I mean, there's different things coming at them. I think Coach Raiola does an unbelievable job of preparation, for practices, just for walkthroughs, just to make sure that we don't have a lot of unblocked players running through the line of scrimmage. So I'm really pleased, especially coming out of the scrimmage with our pass protection up front. I think they did a really nice job of sorting that stuff out. It's not easy, but it's a credit to their hard work. I mean, they're having to do a lot of extra work just to make sure that they can identify where everybody is on that defense.
Well, that's music to my ears. Pass protection has been a problem. Those tackles have kind of been a problem for Nebraska the last couple of years. Terrell, how much, especially with them, I mean, this is year one, so you're really laying down the 3-3-5. You're really trying to get that learned. On the offensive side, will it cause some problems maybe having, faced basically one defense? And yeah, it gives you a lot of looks. But when the install phase, I don't know how much they're running 4-3 or 3-4s to get them ready, the offensive line ready for that on the other side when they play opponents like that. They will for game week. That's partially what you do and what the scout team is for. But do you think that Nebraska, I guess, offense or defense, kind of both sides installing here, playing against one another will kind of limit the different types of looks that they'll be prepared for going into the year, specifically the 3-3-5, the offensive line kind of taking on the 3-3-5 there.
Yeah, it's going to be different from them because they're not going to face a 3-3-5 in the season. So right now you go through it through camp, but you still have to get your blocking down because I would figure, and I would say in one point of the season that they would scrimmage each other ones-on-ones probably once a week. I mean, we did it. So, they will go back to their base defense. And, the offense has to be smart enough to, to still remember the blocks for the 3-3-5, even though you still game planning for another team.